Mr. Harrison, will you lead us in invocation, please?
Will pray with me. Our Father in heaven, Lord, it's once more that we bow our head and humble our heart before you. Lord, we thank you for this county. We thank you, Lord, for this commission. We thank you, Lord, for all of your many blessings. Most of all, Lord, for salvation. We ask you, Father, to bless this meeting. Give us the wisdom that we need to make the decisions that are in the best interest of the county and our citizens. Forgive us for our sins. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Without objection, I'd like to move item A under new business. We're going to go ahead and strike that and move that to old business for the next regular scheduled budget meeting, because our EMA folks will not be here to answer any questions. Without objection, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Oh, I'm sorry, can you call the names out, Matt? She doesn't know everybody's
Oh,
names.
yes, that was Mr. Schmidt and Mr. Harrison, seconded it. Just interrupt me if I forget. Apologies. Okay, recognition of the public. We did. Just did. Mr. Baker.
Kevin Baker, 424 A.B. Wade Road. Got to work on my popularity in this room tonight, I guess. I wanted to talk about the funding of the Elections Commission. I don't know what elected official or elected representative that I voted for wants convenient voting centers. I don't think we should be funding it. Citizens haven't asked for it. It's not appropriate. And I find the dichotomy striking. We want convenient voting centers, but yet we want to relocate our elections office from a central location where a citizen can come and renew his tags, take care of all the business he has to take care of, including registering to vote. But they want to move to the TRC building out in the middle of East Oshkosh? I mean, funding that is ridiculous to me. And I just wanted to make that point. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All righty, I have no report. Mr. Lund?
No report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Okay, moving on to hearings now. We'll have the Election Commission. Ms. Ashley.
Hello. I'd like to thank Mr. Long. He, I don't know if that's it. I think that's something else.
We put her original request in your packet here.
Right, because the last time I spoke to you all, you had the incorrect budget, so I believe what's in this agenda is the one that the Election Commission voted on, approved, and was timely submitted. So I'm available to answer any questions that you might have.
Are there any questions?
It's on this is her original request. It has all the explanations for the increases from last year, which ones are to do with the election cycles, the convenient vote centers, and the TRC.
Yes,
It's,
those are broken out separately.
And then she has her regular salary sheet here, and it has differences because there's overtime, part-time, and the difference from last year for the election commission, I believe, that's to do with the additional voting cycle.
Right, well, last year, which is still this year, we were converted back to a one-cycle election budget, and that's why we're short for 2022, 2023. So now we're back to one election cycle, and I think I explained everything before. We get reimbursed from the state through federal dollars for the March election, which will be the presidential preference primary. But as David also pointed out, that probably won't come in until the next budget cycle. So it won't show as revenue. So if we finish in March, submit it, usually takes me about 6 months, so it'll actually come back into your general fund in the next budget cycle.
If you look at the salary sheets and you look at the one here, she had a request for an additional $11,871 for part-time, $64,930 for part-time, 11,871 for overtime, 1180 for election commission, and we actually have a little bit, I think, extra in one of them because it has raises on it too. But those are to do with the presidential preference, I believe.
Correct.
That's one of the things she's requested here for the part-time.
Mr. Becker? Correct.
Mr. Long, how much increase is in our packet versus what we have in the spreadsheet?
Well,
In
first-
like this total, for
First, if we-
for this department.
Pull down here, Mayor, on the increase line. See that negative 35,
864.
864, it should be that positive 40, 494 plus benefits on the salary. And then we can pull the non-salary because the non-salary has the TRC and everything. This is just for the presidential preference. Is my understanding, it doesn't really involve the other stuff. You need additional part-time stuff for the presidential preference.
So I'm looking for like just,
Okay,
One- like, is this increase of 20,000
go to
or
the right way.
increase of 2 million? Like, I
Go
don't
to
know.
the side.
What's the answer? Every?
Yeah, everything, go where I can kind of feel them. Let's go to the right.
Yeah.
Since there was different items, I didn't add them all together like this. The
So
salaries
the
then.
convenient vote centers and the move was 312,890. So you would take that off your, our total submittal of 1,279, and that leaves 966,000. Which excluding those two things is right in line with our last one election cycle budget.
What was that number, Ms. Ashley? 300?
312,890.
312,890, and that is,
And that's your convenient vote center implementation of $94,000, $55, the move of $218,835. We have identified some ways to significantly reduce that number, depending on what's determined about the move.
were you,
I didn't get an answer, but.
well, so you got, I think you got partial answer from her. I don't know if you got it from her.
I'm gonna give it to you.
Okay. Well, we're waiting on that number, Mr. Harrison.
Yes, we've had a lot of discussion, a lot of back and forth about what convenient vote centers. Can you explain for us as well as the general public what those convenient vote centers would accomplish for Sumner County?
Okay, so just like during early voting, you can go to any early voting location and vote. It doesn't matter where your precinct is or anything like that. You still get your correct ballot, but you can go to any of those physical locations. On election day, your only choice is to go to your precinct, and only between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. or if somebody's in line, they get to stay a little bit later. But convenient vote centers allow a voter in Sumner County to go to any convenient vote location and cast their ballot. So what that means, especially we have a large base in Nashville, employment base, if they say couldn't get to Westmoreland or to Portland, by the time their polling location closed, they could stop in Hendersonville and vote. Stop
Basically
in
like a
Galveston.
fancy kiosk.
Basically, yes.
Okay.
And over time, it saves a lot of money because you can better utilize your equipment and your people by using central locations as opposed to going to some of these more remote locations that just have very little participation. But we have to be there, we have to have the machines, we have to have the equipment, and we have to have the workers.
And once you purchase, if it was approved, if you purchase that, there is no salary for part-time.
Well, we would still have part-time in the
You would
office.
have some, but I mean, not for that kiosk, no benefits, no anything like that.
Nothing like that.
Okay, thank you.
Over time, it saves money, significant amount of money, and people do really like it. It's been implemented in multiple counties across the state already, and more are doing it every day.
Mr. Becker?
So, I think, thought I knew what it was, but something you said confused me, so maybe I misunderstood. So on election day,
You have to go to your precinct
yeah,
now.
I understand that. But are you saying they can go to any precinct, or there would actually be a convenient vote precinct that's
We
separate?
would have multiple locations across the county.
So it's not the
Multiple locations.
existing precincts?
I'm sorry?
So on election day, it's not the,
That's correct, right. It would reduce the number of precincts. That's correct. but they would be centrally located throughout the county. So in other words, we wouldn't just put one in Hendersonville and Westmoreland would have to drive down here.
Oh, so this would okay, so this wouldn't keep the precincts and allow anybody to vote at any of them. This would,
Yes,
this
you
would,
can
this
vote
would
at any
reshuffle.
convenient voting location, you can go. Any place that is open on election day, you can go and cast your vote.
Okay.
Mr. Harrison?
And so right now, there's how many precincts, 29?
29.
Okay, and then or if we do this convenience, you think it'd be how many instead?
Well, based on the numbers we have today, it would probably be around 17 or 18 locations.
In total?
Yes, sir.
But they wouldn't be tied to
You can go
voting
anywhere.
districts.
If you live in Henderson,
I
you can go to
understand that,
Portland.
I'm just thinking on election day. Okay. Interesting.
Mr. Harrison?
Where would be some, I'm assuming the administration building would be one location. Where would be some other locations that these
We probably
might
have
be?
5 locations in Hendersonville, probably about 5 in Gallatin.
Sure.
White House, Goodlettsville, Portland.
Do you have it kind of mapped out as to
We
where?
do, yes, sir. But we haven't, since it's not been finalized, we haven't.
No, I understand that. Okay.
So I still have 2 questions I'd like to, is there anybody else in queue? I don't want to step on anybody. Just 2 questions. So in those places where where throughout the state, election, convenience voting has been implemented, have overall costs decreased for
Yes.
those? They've
Yes.
materially decreased? Do you have any
Yes.
data on that?
Rutherford County and Wilson County have been in the longest, in the program the longest, and they've already seen a significant decrease. I don't have the percentages for you.
I feel like I remember doing those 2,
You were doing the benchmarks
the
on those.
benchmarking, and they have not seen decreases.
Well, it'll be over about a 10-year period, but they just implemented them 3 to 5 years.
So we haven't seen material decreases to date.
I don't have knowledge of their personal finances, but this is done in states across the country, and it's proven statistically.
So the second question is, has there been material increase in voter turnout in those locations?
Yes, yes, on election day. In Sumner, we have about 50% of people that vote in early voting. So we have 50% that vote in early, 50% that vote on election day.
Do you have any data on that? Because I've spoken with individuals at the state level, and they claim otherwise, that they have not seen an
Like I said,
increase.
I don't have intimate knowledge of their numbers.
I guess my question here is, if we're being asked to invest in something,
Mhm.
and it's been implemented elsewhere, I have not seen any data,
Well, it's
that-
still relatively new,
so.
but there's data from other states that have used it for years and years.
Did you bring any of that?
I did
Maybe?
not bring
Okay.
any of that.
I've got mine. That was mine.
Okay.
Any other questions? Mr. Klein?
So I was a little confused when they asked their questions. So you're saying right now we have 29 precincts,
And the way we're growing, that'll have to probably increase.
but if we go to this convenience voting, we're gonna go down to 17 or 18.
Yes,
So we're
sir.
gonna have a net loss of 11 or more?
Roughly, yes. We haven't done the final numbers, but yes, sir.
But there hasn't been a decrease in costs.
Well, it'll be experienced again over a number of years. It won't be the first year.
I would think the first year it would, I mean, if you're at 11 less precincts, you would think that right off the bat, you'd have 2/3 the cost that you had prior.
The math does not work that way.
Doesn't work that
No,
way.
sir.
Yes.
Part of it's postage is in
Precincts
that
would be
card.
bigger.
Any other questions,
Yeah.
Miss Ashley?
No.
Oh, yes.
Mr. Lester?
Wait, Mr. Hardy.
Lori, I'll say to begin with, so that there won't be any question about it, I really don't think this is a good idea until we have more history behind it. Name me just a few states that you're aware of, you don't have the whole list that do convenience voting.
Indiana's one that has done it for many years. Texas, Florida, several. I don't have the list.
Does Georgia,
They do not.
California,
Yes.
Arizona,
Yes.
Nevada?
I didn't bring that list, Mr. Hyde, I'm sorry. Wasn't where that would
It
be.
just sort of, I'll just have to tell you part of my problem, and it's probably, it doesn't make sense to you or the election commission, but it just seems to me like a lot of moving parts here. The opportunity for ballots and votes to get lost, not that they would, but opportunity for ballots and votes to get lost with this much movement going on. I like to go to my precinct where I know the people. They know me by name. There's very much less chance of any kind of thing going amiss with that type of system. And mathematically, I don't get the cost here. If you said there might be 5 centers in Hendersonville.
Well, that's our biggest voting block in the
Sure,
county.
but if you had 5 centers plus voting precincts open,
The precincts will not be open. There will be convenient vote centers, which means you can vote anywhere in the county on
well,
election
now
day.
you've sold me totally against it, so.
Okay.
But anyway, there's too many moving parts to this.
It's around.
Any other, oh, go ahead, Mr.
All of them's a little over 370 for all the stuff. You've got your presidential preference, you've got the TRC move and the convenient vote center. So there's all three parts. The difference looks like it makes up a little over $370,000 for all three. But there's moving and there's more parts than one in there. So.
And so the TRC and the convenience voting is how much of that 370?
Oh, well, we'd have to go back and add them up unless Lori's gonna break out that.
It's broken
They're
down.
noted, but they're not totally exactly the total.
Well,
So if it was
the CDC
312
was, convenient vote centers was 94,055, and the move was 218,835, for a total of 312,890.
So then the rest of it would be your presidential
So
summary.
370 minus 312, so basically roughly 60, whatever, 65,000, 70,000.
But yeah, but what Lori's told me is the
She
actual
said the
part-time
move to
and
the
the,
TRC would be
which is mainly what's
218.
missing out of this is the
Early voting is about
presidential primary. It's nothing to do with the convenient vote center.
All of that will come back, but it'll be in the next budget cycle.
One other question. I was here when we streamlined the precincts before. I wasn't for that either, but we got a tremendous amount of rebuff from the county, more rural county residents, because it made it more difficult for them traveling to get to a precinct to vote. And if we're talking about now reducing even less number of places to vote, even though it's convenience voting, these rural folks are going to be traveling even further.
Well, with all due respect, Mr. Hyde, these rural folks, they have to go buy groceries and go to the doctor and go do all these other things, and they have to travel to go do that.
For sure, but we don't need to put anything else on them.
I don't believe it's an undue burden at all. But that's up to the election commission to decide, and this is the decision they have made to move forward.
Well, it's up to us to give money, and I'm not going to give a penny for it.
Any other
I
discussion
think
or
it's
any other
important.
questions? Go ahead.
I'll just-
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, you go, because he's been in.
I just wanted a clarification on numbers, so.
Go
I
ahead.
just think it's important to note that we have to listen to what the citizens want. And all I can tell you is from my district perspective, they told me they do not want this. So I got to listen to what they're telling me, and they don't want convenience voting centers. So I'm going to back my constituents on that.
So the move was 218, 235, do I have that right?
Yes.
And there was another number before that was the,
There's the TRC, there's the convenient vote centers, and then the other difference would be the remainder would be your presidential preference.
okay, so what was the convenient vote centers?
94,000.
94,000.
That's the 312.
And that's the 312
And the
total.
218,835 was the move.
Move, right.
But we think we can reduce that substantially.
And
Working
then,
with the mayor
So-
and coming up with some alternatives that we can, for
so
the building.
so the balance to the 370,000 is the extra for the presidential?
Primary preference with, yeah.
Okay,
If
okay.
you want to see it, we can enter it in if it would take long.
I think we're tracking on the numbers now.
Okay, yeah, now I
Any-
understand.
Now, yeah, thanks for that clarification. Any other questions from Ms. Ashley? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
All righty, human resources.
Good evening, Commission. Budget Committee.
Yeah.
I come to you as humble as I can, as a human resource professional with my staff member of 27 years with Sumner County. A 30-year plus tenured human resource professional. 3 weeks ago, I presented a budget to you. No idea that it was going to be reversed and it was going to be considered as being defunded. 6 weeks before the end of the fiscal year, I learned that our department is going to be defunded. No reason, no quantitative information, no factual resource information, nothing. I posed 10 questions to the committee, and I copied every commissioner in Sumner County to understand the foundational reasons for the defunding and the untimely notification of such. When I presented my first budget, no questions were asked of me. No one said one word that this was going to happen. The year prior, with the new administration coming on board, to include the mayor, there was rumor mill rumbling that we were going to experience possibly losing our positions to include the library system, the IT department, and the human resources department. The concern is political patronage. That is illegal. In the year since last year, I have been thwarted in everything that I have attempted to do what is needed and responsibly expected as a human resources professional. I was hired 2 years ago because this county decided that they needed to reinstate a human resources department to fulfill duties that were not getting done by the finance department or the legal department. My first assignment when I was brought back in was to conduct a pay study that was never conducted in the 10 years that our finance director had been here. It was not completed. I completed that task in 6 months. We completed job descriptions right here. Job analysis for each and every position in the county to assist the pay study. The raw data, Kim and I coordinated the effort. Every job analysis is in this stack. Those analyses were given to the pay study group, who were going to actually formulated a formal copy of job descriptions because the county had nothing. Nothing. The county does not even have a compensation plan. We hire based on whatever we need to pay, based on the previous person in that job, or whatever the department wants to hire that person at. It's not equitable, it's not fair, it's not justifiable. The pay study was initiated to help create an understanding of where we are market-wise. Some people favored it, and some didn't. But it was required, it was requested. Kim and I completed the task. We also completed the task by ensuring that policies and procedures were implemented. We changed our insurance policy to allow our employees to get insurance after 30, not after 30 days, but the first day of the month after they started. We reformed our policy to improve our vacation for our employees because the policies were so antiquated. Sumner County is not progressive. We are not progressive. We're missing the boat. As I said previously, 31 years, 31 plus years, I know how to carve out benefits administration. I know how to save money. I've been there, done that. I am the international president of the Public Management Association for the United States of America. I did not get there because I didn't know what I was doing. If you give me the opportunity to do what I need to do and to stop telling me no, or you will take care of it. And when I produce a policy, it's never seen or never comes to fruition. I cannot educate the employees. The employees are missing out. And then there's a plan put into place, and there's no plan that I know of, nor Kim. Kim is being tossed like a rag doll to and from. Where is the plan? Where was the discussion to help me understand why we were going to be eliminated 6 weeks before the end of the fiscal year? This is Sumner County money. It's the public, it's the employee. This is not a personal bank account for each and every budget committee member. No offense. I hold on tightly to what I have. I cherish what I have, personally, and I know you do. And I'm not condemning, I'm not putting you down because I'm a professional and I respect you as professionals. But the money belongs to the county, to the public, to the employees. Have you polled the employees? Have you polled our constituents in a referendum to help understand why you would take this measure? Why are those untransparent conversations going on behind closed doors? And then I'm told to watch a video to find out why my department is being defunded? And then I learned that people don't even understand what HR does. Let's figure it out. Let's figure out what we need to do to delineate those said duties to ensure the success of this organization in this county. The employees need a human resources department. This is beyond personal, whether it's dealing with an FMLA issue, a HIPAA issue, a personal care issue, a psychological issue. Again, we're here to save money and to help progress the county, not to regress. I'm standing here and I ponder and I wonder, why am I being attacked? Why is Kim being attacked? There is no other department that is being listed for defunding. No other department. I sat here 2 weeks ago and watched every department that came up. They were able to get something out of their budget request. You even raised the COLA recommendation from 2% to 3%. So why defund human resources? You indicated in the meeting that I was told to watch that the funds would have to go back to finance or back to the legal department, but you have to hire somebody that understands human resources, FMLA, benefits analysis, 31 plus years, master's degree in organizational communication, 2 professional international human resources certifications. Again, I do employee relations, benefits, recruitment, public relations, policy development, and I've worked with the best of the best attorneys and judges and magistrates across this country. I've worked with the Commander-in-Chief of the United States of America, Joseph Biden. Whether you want to hear it or not, I don't wear it on my sleeve. I grew up in Delaware under the leadership of Governor DuPont and Joseph R. Biden, who I do know personally, and just saw him last Sunday. From that, I suffer from a major heart condition. I am on doctor's care as we speak. I suffered a heart attack 3 years ago during COVID. This situation has exacerbated my situation. Thursday, I went to the doctor with a 187 over 109 blood pressure with 100 heart rate. Here's my excuse. I also have a meningioma. What is a meningioma? I have a brain tumor at the top of my skull that's inoperable. That maybe I end up with a brain bleed because of the stress behind all that's happening. There's some liability. I'm on a life medication. A situation I've had since birth. But no, you all know I have limitations. My husband has limitations. I will be 60 years old in January. I don't ask for anything. I take care of a 91-year-old mother in Delaware who I have power of attorney over. So now, you're ending my job in less than 6 weeks that I have to pay COBRA. It's expensive. I have a husband who is a retired person, who is a pastor of a church, who is dealing with some early stages of some things. So I am taking care of my husband and my 91-year-old mother in Delaware, and I sit here. My goal is to help Sumner County. I'm not here to disenfranchise anyone. I'm here out of respect and gratitude. And for someone to say, we need money, we've got to find money. Why are you doing this? I still don't have any answers. I don't have any answers. If you would clearly lay out a plan, research this. That's all I ask. I'm a professional. I can take it. I rise above and I carry on. And I will always carry on, no matter what happens. This is not a sympathy plea. It's not. It's reality. You would not want anybody to treat your son, your daughter, your mother in the manner in which I have been treated and Kim has been treated. This is not business. I am strictly business, but I have a heart. I have a heart for what I do. So I'm sorry if it's taken this long, but here's the proof. Kim and I work, and we work hard. And if you let us do our job, if you give us the structure, you give us the support to be able to help the county and to help the employees, I guarantee you will see greater reward. Where there's no leadership in human resources, as I told you before, this county will perish. You are liable. Think about that. You're liable. Why take that chance? Why take that risk of not of not allowing a human resources department. Why? Just please help me and Kim understand why. Our spouses are terribly upset. Our kids, my children, my daughter is a nurse practitioner, a doctorate in nursing right now. Like I said, my doctor just got off the phone with me before I came in here, the doctor's office, concerned. For the next few weeks, this is what I have to carry around. A blood pressure monitor, because my blood pressure is off the rooftop. I suffer from SVT. Those in EMS know. Supraventricular tachycardia. If my heart rate goes above 200 and I don't get a shot within 30 minutes, then my troponin levels go up and I suffer from another heart attack. I refuse to have another heart attack. I refuse to have another heart attack at the expense of a decision that you have not given me any reason to understand why. I thank you, and I sincerely hope that you will consider keeping human resources in place and providing a substantial plan to allow the county to exercise and to divide those duties and make it worthwhile, not a personal decision. This is not our personal bank accounts. The money belongs to the county and the livelihood of the employees. Thank you.
Any questions for the HR department? All right, thank you, ma'am. Moving on to new business. We skipped item A, or we're moving item A to our next regular scheduled budget committee meeting, business tax change.
That is
Mr.
what
Wallen,
we
go ahead.
received just the other day, talking to the county clerk, and she talked to the state. She does not believe it's going to be, or the state does not believe it's going to be a significant impact to the county because they're going to change the distribution. However, probably this January, she may need to come back and have an adjustment with her melting cost. I think that's,
Is there a need for any decision here?
no, just the county clerk wanted everybody to be aware that she may need more postage next year.
All right, got it. Moving on to item C, law director. So, Mr. Sittler, this may make sense for you to speak to.
Yes, got actually now 2 positions since this email went out that I have to fill. Neither one of them had paralegal experience. So I was, this started out with one that had moved to another job opportunity, and I was wanting to increase that range to accommodate a paralegal, and no change would need to be made to the second one because that was already a paralegal position. So that's what I was seeking, because I'm trying to reduce work that is sent outside of the law director's office, such as tax sales, codes violations, things of that nature, which I think should show a significant decrease in the general, I'm not sure which funds that come out of when it's the liability stuff.
It comes out of the liability
Yeah,
fund.
the liability, I think that'll significantly draw that down, and just me being able to get a better reign and also get a lot more work product out the door as the law director. So it's become a urgent need now as of the first of this week.
And he might be able to decrease slightly some of the outsourced cost in his budget for tax sale when we're talking.
What's the difference?
About 20,000, well, probably about whatever it takes to take the 60, about 16,000 plus benefits.
So all in, it'd be over 20,000.
Yeah, probably with benefits.
Yeah. But we have an open paralegal spot now, right? So you're trying to go from one paralegal to two?
The second position that opened up is, I'm really gonna need somebody that's up to speed because who it is, and you all know who it is, but it's also goes into the committee meetings, the commission meetings, the agenda prep, I need somebody that's got some experience doing this right out of the gate. So that's probably gonna also need to be a paralegal level position.
So the asking is for an additional 16,000 in salary plus,
It's just the original ask, it's just now I've got the other position is open as well,
well,
which
no,
was
yeah.
paralegal.
No, I understand
Okay.
that, so it's, but the ask is 16,000 in salary difference plus
Yeah,
benefits,
I
so probably
think that's the
20,000.
number.
Right, it's
yeah.
around, you wanted to make that around 60,
That's what the market is bearing right now, yes.
and under your contracted in your office, you said you might want to decrease it to absorb a little bit of that.
I think it will more than significantly cover whatever that increase is.
So so the net change then, you're saying would be zero, or?
I'm
So
saying
you're
it'll
gonna
bring
take-
money back
You're gonna
in.
take some out of what we're paying for contracted services?
Correct.
You go back to the
Exactly.
regular contract
All right.
services too, because you're regular.
Just in code enforcement alone, it's gonna save quite a bit of money.
And he's got this 120 that was for the tax sale, and I think you said you might let it decrease that 5 or 10,000 maybe right now, to absorb part of that.
Yeah, I can do
It
that.
needs to be the full 16.
Yeah,
It needs to match, whatever we decide on the other, it needs to match.
It was 15, you know.
Can we get a motion for that?
Well, I don't understand, I guess I got a couple questions on the other page first.
Just maybe a motion at least for discussion or something here.
Motion for discussion.
All right.
I'll second it.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Could I get the name?
Oh, yes, Mr. Becker made the motion, and Mr.
Klein.
Klein got the second. I know we've been operating outside the rules, but,
So I was gonna ask questions.
yeah, go ahead.
I'm learning.
Go ahead, Mr. Becker.
So there's two positions, and your request is basically to make them both paralegals, is that?
Correct.
Okay. And so, what am I looking at? Was column W sort of the new salary or whatever?
Yes.
So the current position, the current paralegal is already at 58.8, and then there's the 17.6 COLA. Okay. Okay.
And the other was
And
strict,
and both positions are open right now.
Correct. Well,
Soon to be
pending,
open.
the last one's riding out the 2 weeks that they submitted Monday.
Gotcha. And from a salary, from a market standpoint, you're saying 60's in line with the market? Because I've got, on whatever website I've used is showing that the 60's quite a bit higher than the market.
We actually
But I don't know.
pulled a salary survey, I believe you did, didn't you? But there was a salary survey pulled on that, and it was coming in actually a little higher, around 65 is what I pulled for just the state of Tennessee.
Yeah, I had the one website I used showed about, I think from memory, is around 51,000 for.
It's gonna vary based on experience as
Oh,
well.
yeah, I'm sorry, this is max. This will be a DOE issue. If I can get it lower, it will be.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. That's all my question for now.
So,
I think Mr. Klein made
yeah.
that.
yeah, but I think while I was looking at it, so the other position was at 43.4 with an increase of 1303, but we're gonna take that one up. So we'll have two paralegals rather than a paralegal and
Yeah,
a
and
clerical.
take
And
that.
if I can, in the duration, fill the second one, the pay would not be for an assistant at that rate.
How many people are in your office now?
Those are the only two.
So those two and then you two?
Correct.
That's it, 4.
So,
Mr. Becker.
so who would conduct the admin assistant responsibilities?
Which one, which line is
Well,
that?
if you're saying, if I understood you right, so the person that's leaving is doing, this line says paralegal / admin assistant.
Correct.
Okay. So if you hire in at a paralegal or paraprofessional, Who does the administrative assistant?
They will do that in conjunction with filings. There's certain areas of bankruptcy which don't get touched on very well.
So these two positions would do everything that they're currently doing, plus bring in some of that outsourced or whatever
Yes,
funding?
absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, from what I understand right now, as long as that other line item goes down the same amount.
We have a motion?
Well, not yet.
Okay.
So, this may be silly, but can you quantify over a year's time what the increase in 15 or 16,000 will do as far as bringing stuff from out of house in? Do you have any idea at all?
What do you think? Well, not title, but just in codes. How many?
We have dozens of them.
Yeah, we've got dozens of codes cases that prior to me getting here, and I'm still uncovering stuff. I've only been here 6 months, but just in codes alone, which isn't a very significant task, I think it would easily offset one of these positions in its entirety.
Okay.
It was usually can't.
Yeah, and the
Mr.
title work alone, when it was getting farmed out, was coming in at about,
I think it's 300. I checked with Knox County because they've recently done a tax sale, and their title work was about 300 per parcel. So if you multiply that out, it doesn't take very long to get to the difference in the salary.
Okay.
They also do the tax sales in this office, so they should be able to help with that.
Yeah.
So they're doing
And that's
delinquent
stuff,
tax.
that's stuff that has to be done by a paralegal.
You got delinquent tax sales,
attorneys, actually.
Yeah, okay.
on the job injury, liability, your general, just normal stuff for an attorney's office, and the bankruptcies, this to do with the regular cases
Yeah,
downstairs
But the
too.
argument here is that the
Yeah, I know.
paralegal would tee that up so that we don't have to outsource that.
I'm
that
not,
work.
exactly, they're able to take care of the administrative functions of what paperwork needs to go out in a legal perspective. And so I'm not having to type out my own orders, briefs, just any document for that matter. And we can move on, the two of us can move on to really identifiable issues that need to be addressed, commission items that come up to the office. Just basically, it would completely change how I'm able to devote more time to commission-related issues.
Go ahead.
I'm just trying to think. I know trying to compare the previous law director and staff and so forth. So it goes back down. My question is, it goes back down to how much has to be outsourced. So bringing that in versus what the previous staff was able to do.
May help
Correct,
with that.
absolutely. I'm trying to bring as much of the day-to-day, what I call the day-to-day legal side of things,
Mhm.
back in-house.
Okay.
Because you do one codes enforcement that gets farmed out, it could cost $11,000.
Mhm.
If we're doing it, we're in general sessions court and we can get it rectified fairly quickly, plus start pumping the notices out. Not to bore you with the whole process, but we can easily, with a paralegal, manage that because we sign what we need to sign, we make our appearances in court, and they take care of the process of the cataloging, the filing, the making sure we're in court on time and everything gets sandwiched together. There's a whole process to make our jobs more efficient.
And Mr. Long, from a financial standpoint, you would agree with that?
Well, hopefully too, it'll help on the overtime. There's a fair amount of overtime for the employees, but I think you do have a significant amount of outsourcing in the office with the tax sales, the on-the-job injury, and the liability. It's been that way several years, and it would probably help to have paralegals in there versus somebody off the street, not trained. Just my observation, but I'm not an attorney, so I can't say.
Mr. Harrison?
During all of these hearings and budget discussions, the discussion about eliminating HR and the subsequent discussion about farming that out to finance and to the legal. Are these paralegals going to be hired in knowing that they're going to have to deal with human resources?
when
Well,
I,
it depends on what you tell me I'm working with after all of this, the dust has settled on this, so I don't have an answer to that.
let me clarify too, the portion we were talking about was what I was asking about, what it would take to do the enrollments and some of the complaint process. We didn't talk about like a full HR function, because there's never been a full HR function until the last couple of years in the county. So make sure I didn't make you mislead that we're gonna take
But,
all the
but
HR
all I'm saying is
that
that has been a discussion at this table, multiple times, and you don't wanna bring in new employees not understanding fully what they're getting into. And from a paralegal standpoint, they're typically not handling OSHA and HIPAA and FMLA and those kinds of things. So they need to come in knowing, with their eyes wide open, what they're gonna be dealing with, if that department is eventually eliminated.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
And I can't pose that to them until I know that's my function, is my problem.
And my interest was more leaning toward things such as enrollment.
Sure.
And as maybe a different complaint process was, because I was only involved in portions of that. In portions, I was asked funding issues, what it would take as far as picking up those sections. Not as full functions of office, if that makes sense.
So is there any other, is there gonna be a
Is it
motion here to make this
possible-
movement, to make this move? We've been doing without motions, but I've suspended the rules up now. I'm trying not to do that today, but to save time, and I don't know that I'm saving the time.
Excuse me if this is a dumb question, but is it possible if whoever you bring in to hire, you could say, there's a possibility if we don't have HR that you're gonna be doing A, B, and C, like Commissioner Harrison was referring to, just to kind of prepare them for the I don't want to say worst case, but lack of better terms, worst case scenario with job description, you may be dealing with this plus this, but if that doesn't happen, you'll only be dealing with this. I mean, is it possible to?
In a general approach to this, when I've hired paralegals in my private practice, I hire people that can be brought up to speed and adapt to change and take on tasks, stop doing tasks if it's not needed anymore. So I'm not going into this saying, this is your niche here, here, and here. You're here to help accomplish a task for the office. So they will get up to speed, because some of this I'll have to get up to speed. And it's just gonna be part of the learning curve. So that would be my approach to hiring a paralegal. If they're not savvy enough to do that, then it's not somebody I need.
Ms. Swanson?
So, I hate to get back on the quantification, but you said a few minutes ago that $11,000 is to have something sent out of house?
I'm just using that as an example of a codes case that.
Okay, a codes case, okay.
That-
If you did it in-house rather than sending it out of house, what is the net cost doing it in-house versus sending it out of house?
Cost of a warrant probably, which is around, I think in Sumner County, 200, I have his
Okay.
honor behind you, I'm not sure.
So it's almost nothing.
It's, I think it's about $200.
Okay, so in
say
two-
it's
in
about
two
a net
codes-
of 10.8.
2 codes cases, we've paid for it for the year.
Yeah, that'd be one way to quantify it, yes.
Okay, that's what I was looking for.
So I'm gonna get in queue and then I'll make a motion, because we're not getting there.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, go ahead.
And I apologize, this is just terminology. You said a few minutes ago, it's in your email. What does DOE stand for?
Depending on experience.
Oh,
So,
there you go.
one question, and then I'm gonna make a motion here. So, the one question is, does this change maintenance of effort?
For his
anywhere?
department?
For his department, I mean, does that, there's no
There's
implications?
no maintenance
I
of
didn't
effort
think so.
for his department.
Okay, so I'm gonna make the motion. I didn't think so, I just wanted to get that out there. I'm gonna move, I don't like doing this in my own, committees, but I'm gonna move that we move these funds per the request, but we move an equivalent corresponding amount out of, what's been budgeted for, outsourcing. Y'all got a second?
I'll give you a second.
All right.
So your motion is to just basically do a transfer.
I'm gonna transfer, it's gonna be net. We're moving what we think we're gonna get, we expect to get savings.
Benefits with
Yeah,
that.
yeah, well, they'll figure out the benefits, but whatever it is,
We'll make it
it's
the
gonna
same
be
as
net.
that dollar.
Okay,
Budget. She's making a note right now. It won't materially affect anything tonight.
There's no doubt in my mind that the help of a paralegal is very important for this department. but I'm a little perplexed here because both of the ladies that are in there now stay extremely busy, or at least they're extremely busy every time I go in there. Answering the phone, taking messages, putting agendas together, working with the court clerk, which is not paralegal duties. And I'm not seeing that being picked up anywhere unless we're paying an expensive paralegal somewhere to take on. Who is going to do those menial office tasks? Is it going to be a $60,000 paralegal, or are we going to be hit with another secretary or clerk?
Based on my time up there, I do believe that two qualified paralegals can handle what needs to be asked of them. And then when I'm able to show some results, if I think another person needs to come on, I'll make that request when appropriate. But I do think it can be handled.
But I think Mr. Hyde brings up a good point. I guess if the responsibilities of these paralegals are going to be some of this admin assistant, then I would think that the salaries wouldn't be as high as, high as the 60, right? I'm looking at the sheet. Like if they're doing admin assistant work, which is 43,000, it looks like.
Well,
Then, and I don't know if it's 80-20, 70-30, whatever percentage of their responsibilities. But whatever that percentage, whatever you think that percentage would be, I would think maybe the 60 would get adjusted accordingly. Is that sort of in line with what you were?
if using Mr. Hyde's analogy, what I'm doing is adding that as an additional, I think that additional responsibility of the clerical functions can be accomplished and then do the things that I need them to do as a paralegal. So I'm not hiring a paralegal to just answer phones. That's just an additional duty they will have. If you want to give me another person, I'll take it.
No, I'm not suggesting that. I'm just trying to see if I want to vote even for this.
Any other questions? Any other?
I have a statement. In my experience, when you have somebody who's qualified at an upper level, they tend to be more of a go-getter and get the job that they have to do as well as handle other things. It was certainly, in my experience, it's certainly more beneficial to hire two people like that rather than two and a third to sit and answer phones or something.
I agree.
And so it's just, it depends on who you select, who you interview. And in my experience, those are the kinds of people I would go for.
I'll make this comment. Work in startups, very small businesses. You hire people who can do everything from QA code or detailed project management, all the way up to somebody who can interface with senior executives. I mean, that's like, that's the world I come from. So
Yeah, me too.
I'm gonna support it. Any other discussion? All right, I think we're ready to vote. All in favor of this motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passed unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Sitler. So we got a note here on page 11 from General Sessions 1. So this is Mr. Long, and I know we have the judge here. May hand this one to you briefly.
And I think the judge is probably the best one to explain.
right here.
since I wasn't 100% a problem with what he
Go
was
ahead,
practically
Mr.
trying to
Okay,
say.
it's come to our attention and that commissioners, judicial commissioners who write warrants, accept bonds, that they're no longer going to have use of the language line through the sheriff's department. And that is a valuable tool that they can't do their job unless they have. And we can't then have people who are arrested when they're trying to get information to sit bond on their front end. Without the use of the language line, there's no way in order for them to communicate with those people who've just been arrested. The language line is available through the administrative offices of the court, and it costs around, it's a usage-based system. And right now, it looks like that we're going to be using anywhere from $5,500 to $6,000 a year, but it's not accounted for anywhere. And that's the concern that Judge McCormick and I have going forward, is they've got to have the availability to use that language line in order to set bonds, to be able to communicate with someone who's just been arrested of what their charges are when they appear in court, things of this nature. And so before you all approve the budget, and Mr. Sittler, just to be quite honest with you, I hadn't had a chance to reach out to you on this matter. I came straight from recovery court here today, and so, but it's something that we need, we desperately need, we have to have in order for those commissioners to be able to do their job, to be able to communicate with someone who's just arrested. And so for wherever that needs to go in the budget line, whether it's, I'm not sure, to be quite honest with you. I was going to even propose that that's the case, that we, we've got to have it. So if it's someplace that we can put it in our budget, or whoever's budget that is, that's an essential function that the commissioners need in order to do their job. And so I just wanted to bring it to this body's attention before the budget was approved, because my understanding is it's going to be separated out of the Sheriff's Department's budget. And so there's no funding for that anywhere.
Mr. Sittler, I know you had a question.
I have a comment. I did not become aware of this until a week ago. I was handed a bill, and I was asking what the bill was for, and it was from this service, I believe, that the courts are using as well. I said, well, what line's it coming out of? And apparently this was a handshake agreement between the magistrates, the law director, and the Sheriff's Department, that they would rotate paying it month to month. So that sheriff would pay it one month, it'd come out of my line the next month. Not sure what line it came out of. And it wasn't really, it flew under the radar because it would run about $50-$60 a month.
Yeah.
So recently it's been getting up to about $800 a month, which caused people to ask, where's this coming from, who approved it, whatnot.
We have an enormous amount of Hispanics, but it's not just that. We have, like today, or Friday, I had someone from the South Pacific that spoke a very specific dialect. There is not an interpreter in the United States, certified interpreter. The only way that I can communicate with this person is going to be through the language line in court. So the AOC pays for it while it's in court. It's just, the commissioners is not considered in court.
Go ahead.
So my biggest concern with this, I was talking with the supervising magistrate, Mr. Draper, and my biggest concern with the fact that this isn't an item that is in anybody's budget is I think we're going to run afoul of some requirements as these individuals are processed through the system, because what they had been doing was using jail guards way back in the past as interpreters when it was it was Mexican or Cuban or Puerto Rican or something that was very commonly spoken here, and they would just come over and interpret. Well, the problem with that is you've got to have a certified court interpreter, or you run the risk of the old adage in law school, the fruit from the poisonous tree. If this interpretation goes down bad with the magistrates, everything from that point forward was in vain. So
unfortunately, Google Translator doesn't qualify.
What about ChatGPT?
Neither one of them.
It's probably
What about
a year from it.
ChatGPT Esquire?
But I'm afraid the county's going to run afoul of some issues on cases getting dismissed or reversed, and we're eating
I get it.
So how much money we're talking?
How much?
It's somewhere around $6,000.
6,000
If we're
a
stay
year?
on the pace that we're on right now,
For the
which
year?
is
For the
for the
year.
year.
I make a motion to add 6,000 wherever. it
Where-
is.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Where will we put it, Mr. Long?
Other contract and any magistrates.
All right.
So it's magistrates that is getting it?
Well, he said the magistrates use it, so.
They do.
I just wanna make sure.
Yeah, let's not rotate it.
Well,
Yeah, let's not rotate it, like it
Let's
goes
just
to a
insert
spot and it
insert a row
stays.
call other contracted services slash, what did you call, what kind of interpreters, certified?
It's a certified, it's called a language line, and it's a certified interpretation service.
Wouldn't it make sense to go to the
It's called other contracted services
No.
slash language.
You don't think so?
Because they're getting.
So where there's no
paid
mistake what that
through
is.
the state.
Yes.
Okay.
So we'll leave it with the magistrates if I'm understanding, because now that they're under me, I need to let them know, hey, you've got this money
All
sitting
right.
here, okay.
But it stays there, right? That's, we're not gonna rotate. this.
Correct.
Thank you all very much, because we are.
We gotta vote on it, first, Mr. Quinn. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passed. Now you can go, Mr. Quinn. Have a good evening, sir.
See you, Rob.
All right, moving on, building and codes.
If we can go to page, just the reserve page there, I'll show what I'm talking about. The folder that committed for that, it's on page number 3 of the budgeting form. There it is. If you look on page number 3, and it's right here under the committed, there's $9,654 for code abatement. They did not budget to use any of that this year because they weren't sure how much was gonna be left for code abatements, and we do them each year. In Marshall's office, since he knows there's gonna be some money left and he needs to do some next year, he's requested to use that $96.54.
Long, where are you at?
If you go to page number 3, and it's actually up here.
Page
too.
3 of the budget?
Yes, I'm sorry, on the budget document.
Got it, okay. I'm not
And you
finding
go, I guess, from the bottom up, and you can see there's the first pink line, the top of it, right above it, it says codes abatement. We're estimating there's $9,654 left in that. And Marshall needs to budget that in his, or Marshall Wright downstairs, actually upstairs, needs to budget that in his office to do the codes enforcement or the debris cleanup. He has nothing in his budget right now, because he wasn't sure how much was left. He brought it to
So
my
it's
attention.
unused this year, he wants to use it next year.
Yeah, he wants to use it next year's budget, to do the code enforcement. And you do recover funds on these, but they don't always recover funds. So several years ago, the commission gave you some of these codes enforcement funds, but I believe one of the properties we've already looked back was enforced, but the actual property, there's no need to lien against it because it's not actually worth anything. So we're kind of getting into that situation. It's the debris cleanup, and it should be able to pull its money back in if the property goes down.
Well, the statute says you can lien the properties and add it to the property taxes, and that's how you recover this.
Unfortunately, we've done some on some property that's not actually worth leaning on because it was a non-usable lot.
And of course, you can't get blood from a stone from some of these people, so that's another issue.
It was a major nuisance, but what happened, my understanding, was a major nuisance in a neighborhood, so it was cleaned up by the county, and then the property wasn't worth. And that's been, what, 5, 6,
So is
7 years
that-
ago we looked at it?
Is that amount already in there?
It's in a reserve, so if we just budget, it won't affect your bottom line, we'll just put it as appropriation marshal, if that's
All
okay.
right, motion, we have, Mr. Harrison has a motion, Mr. Becker has a second, any discussion here? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passed unanimously. We're gonna move on here, but I'd like to take a quick break and make a motion, so I just noticed something going through here, looking for this. I'd like to, well, without objection, I'd like to add one other item under new business, and that is a review of general fund balance, monies for the bridal house. Any objection to adding that?
Is that K?
That would be K.
That was actually under item G.
Oh, is it under G?
Yeah, the reserve
Okay, never mind,
designations, yeah,
never
that's
mind,
what-
never mind.
There's some money there.
Okay, got it. Well, let's continue then with ARPA.
If you look on page number 14 of your printed budget, there's an ARPA schedule, and I have another one actually up here based on ARPA too.
Yeah, we kind of breezed through
Page
this.
what?
I'm sorry, page number.
14, you said?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's the old schedule. This one right here is on another letter, but I reworked it because I thought it'd probably be easier for the committee to follow, because if you look at this one here on the budget, the general revenue
This is page 4.
is the ones that have to be used for water line or broadbands, drainage, or some kind of COVID abatement or recovery. The revenue replacement can be used for anything. Right now, you're $1,226,498 too much on the revenue replacement, but you still have some in the regular general revenues that can be used really just for broadband, water lines, drainage, sewer, which we don't have, or COVID.
So, maybe I'll cut to the chase here and make a motion. I would like to move to, or make one motion to remove the remodel of the General Sessions criminal court, so that's the old building, and also remove the camera system from revenue replacement. So that should bring us,
Okay.
that would give us about 1.775.
Right, and then one other item I need to note, if you look under where I've got it light pink in your budget doc here, it says, Health Department has got 661,366. That's actually gonna be to match that grant, needs to be 661,400. We've got the actual amount on the grant now. We need to change it too.
So I'm showing 1 million and 2 million.
Yeah, so
You're
there's-
saying 1.7.
Well, yeah, because that would be, it's the difference, because we're 1.2, it's the difference between the two, we're 1.2 over. So I'm gonna strike those
Yeah,
two.
delete that. You're talking about, no, I'm not sorry. that was the bottom.
1.774, we're almost 1.8.
You
So
said
that's
the
my
camera
motion.
system and the
Yeah, I got a
general
second
session.
yet.
I'll
You can delete those two
All
right
right.
there.
So we got a motion and a second, and the motion and the second is, if you look at the bottom two, there's 2 million and 1 million on the sheriff's office camera system and then the remodel of General Sessions Court. So that's 3 million we would remove there. We're 1.226 over, so that would bring us to 1.774 over.
1.773502.
Yeah.
Under, yeah. We can
I mean,
change
y'all
the
are-
health department at $33. At 608,305 to say $33.
Sure, we don't need that money.
What's that?
That 3 million.
I mean,
He doesn't now.
The remodel, I understand. What about the cameras?
uh,
How necessary, what's gonna break if,
well, I was just trying to figure out, we didn't talk about it, we didn't hear any kind of real, I mean, I'll just give you I see a very, very, very round number.
yeah,
And when I see a big round number like that, I think, we got a nice pot of money and I'm gonna go grab it.
okay.
I mean, no offense to.
I also received an email from one commissioner that had a question about the maintenance facility, if it has to be that large. That was their question.
The 6,000.
That-
No, if there's 182,325 spent, but there's 1.5 million in there for, the maintenance
Now,
facility remodel, there was a question about it.
Do we have any, because there's a second, I wanted to break this in two because I have another thought here, but first I wanted to clear this off. Are there any other questions on this? Any other? Ready to vote or we want to continue the discussion? All right. All in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passed unanimously. So I'm going to make another motion.
Change it to 661.
Who made the motion?
Yeah, go ahead.
So then,
Who's
that
the
far right
most-
column on the same page, under the total, so that 1.8.
It's either Harrison or,
Almost 4.6.
It goes
Matt.
to 3.
yeah, Mark Harrison did the
Should be
second.
3 million.
Go down and we can show you.
Should be 4.8.
Go down and show you. You got
We just took 3 million
4.842.
out.
Right here it is, right here it is, Jimmy. You got 4,842,937.
Yeah,
that's the 3 million.
Yeah.
Okay,
When we change it to the 6.
making sure my math is right.
So I'd like to make a motion then, because there were two, I believe we had two health departments, excuse me, not health departments, EMS locations, which we struck from the general, that was requested from the general fund. This opens that up. I'd like to make a motion to set aside 2 million for those two.
Second.
Where's the 2 million?
Where were those locations?
One of them was White House.
White House,
I
and
don't
then there was
remember.
another one.
Westmoreland.
White House and Westmoreland.
But there's one,
we just take 1.773.
Well, but this is,
go on
I know
down.
that- I know
Well, the
at
thing
the
is
time,
if you can take those out of COVID money.
I'm just setting it aside. I mean, we're talking a couple of years.
Something-
Are you
all
talking
that
about
will come
Walnut
out
Grove?
If we can.
Not the fire department?
Now, there's one thing to know about these EMS, If they are some way to treat COVID, then they come out of general like we show that one. If they're not any form or fashion treating COVID, then they'll need to come out of the other ones.
We will design the Westmoreland to be a COVID station.
So one needs to be COVID and one needs to be non-COVID.
Right, yeah,
Okay.
and the first one, we design it that way to meet the criteria of the ARPA funds.
Because the one, we already spent, so change that to $2 million.
Turn all of this off.
We're gonna change the 1450 to 2 million, is what you want to do.
Yes.
Change that to 2 million.
I mean, we need to take a vote on it, but like, any other questions on this?
Oh, so you just bumped it up 400,000?
No, I'm gonna put it, I'm moving, I'm basically shifting it.
And we'll do that in a minute.
Well, it was already at 1.4.
Well, yeah, that's right.
Okay.
So,
So you just added
well,
600,000?
no, no,
Add another million.
then we have another vote.
That's not what he's, that's
See,
not
we
what
can
he
undo it
did.
if they don't want to.
And this is all to commit that money, so we don't lose it.
Well, we don't need, that's not gonna hit us. I've checked with a lot of people at Fed level, that's not gonna hit us. But we do need to, at some point,
Yeah.
get this kinda allocated and figured out, so I
Right.
would like to
Right.
get this.
The guy from Hager's office and didn't get
Yeah,
Other question, Matt, is the ECC, that's only 32% of the
Yeah.
system, and I think there was some comments that the city was not gonna do that. Was that what somebody said that day? So did you wanna leave that 32% of it there or not?
I mean, I don't have a problem doing that. It's-
Unless they're gonna.
Rules
cover
aren't
the-
suspended, so we need to vote on it, but I'm fine with it. I'm fine with increasing it.
With getting rid of it or leaving it?
Well, we're gonna leave it though, right?
Well, that's only 32% of what they asked for because
Yeah, but
unless
I
the
mean,
cities are gonna fund the
But
other
they're not gonna,
68.
I mean, we're not gonna
Right.
leave it where it is. I don't wanna sign up
Okay.
to take over somebody else, you know, that's their
No,
responsibility.
my question is the ECC or who's gonna reach out to the cities to see if they'll cover the other 68? Or it'll sit here, that's what my
Well, I mean,
question.
the ECC will reach out to them because it's their money.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like,
So what you're allocating is 32%.
Right.
Of the total cost of that. So we'll bring that up at the next ECC meeting.
Yeah.
That for the project to be funded, the cities have to put in their portion based on the percentages that we have. Those are all preset.
Mr. Becker?
So I'm not sure I understand your $2 million ask. And then to your point, we need to vote on it one way or the other.
So the idea here is that we're shifting, well, we could go more, but I didn't think we needed to. We've got a little bit of cushion left. But we're taking 3 million off of the revenue replacement. Of that, 2 million would be a net, and this is where I think it might have, David, you might have gotten confused here. It's a net of $2 million differences. So it would be, and how exactly this works out, I don't know.
He only added 500,000.
Yeah, no, it would be, it's a net of 2 million that would go over to the White House and Westmoreland. So we're adding a couple.
That group 2, where you are right now, previously was like 1.45 or something?
Yeah.
All we did was.
1540.
Okay.
So it's 500.
Yeah, but that's,
Yeah.
but he's saying bump it up to 3.45.
3.54.
Okay.
The first one?
The EMS department.
Yeah, we
now
had
how
2
much-
million in the current report and 1 million in the camera system.
So make that one, change that to 1.5 million over here, is that what you want to do?
Yeah, 3.54.
So put 1.5 million of it over here then? See what we look like down here now. No, it's still good.
So we're back to
Make that
where we
right.
were.
Did you plug in the right number? Go back
I don't
to,
know that we did that right. It shouldn't have
with
worked out
that
way.
last,
That's the 1450 and the 113's.
Okay.
113's already spent architecture.
1.5.
$1 million, we should be.
Well, actually, it's 2.842 is what it, scroll down, is that what it says?
That's what it says.
Yeah, we're done.
Can you
Okay.
make that black right there?
Now you got me confused.
Now, we'll
All right.
change the budget
Is
to
that
agree
right?
with this, it ain't in the budget.
Yeah, that was the motion.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
All
All right, we all ready? We're gonna vote on
Yeah,
this?
yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. All right.
Do you want to leave the rest of it unallocated still?
Yeah, I mean, it's not, we can leave it for now. We don't have to, we're pretty close.
Bethany, if you
And they
could,
may come back with that it's gonna cost more, so. All right, long-term planning.
Oh, no, you're still on the reserves and debt.
Oh, sorry, yeah, go ahead, because I don't want to miss
A
this.
couple of them here, if you can go to the front of the general fund and go to the Civil War one, that's the first one we'll talk about. Talking to Ms. Norfleet, Mr. Grant's gone, but there's some couple of things we need to look at on the, it's up under the restricted. If you look, there's a, go to the side. There was $11,200 that each of these counties right here gave to a Civil War grant, and the county matched $13,097. My understanding, it's been going on for several years, and when I talked to Ms. Norfleet, that grant is actually dead. So right now, it looks like the county probably needs to return those amounts to the counties and remove that, I guess, designation for our match if the grants are no longer viable.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All righty. Continue. Sure.
The top one up here, if you look on your printout and if you go up there, the drug court shows a negative $19,039 reserve, and we cannot have a negative reserve. However, the opioid settlement has $1,893,259 for this coming year. My understanding, it is used for drug treatment and abatement, so my question is, do you want to net that 19,039 and use part of the opioid settlement?
Yeah, I'll comment and then I'll make a motion. So I have one, it's on me to appoint a committee here. I have one name I'm still waiting on, and then I'm gonna appoint that, and they would be doing that, but in lieu of that committee being formed, I'll make a motion to net that out with that fund.
Second.
Any discussion here? All in favor?
Aye.
Chauffin Harrison. All right, Mr. Long.
The next one, we go on down, there's committed for general COVID-19B. This was the amount we received about a year and a half ago. It could be used for anything. The county commission put part of it to revenue replacement and part of it to construction. That's the one that me and Mr. Klein was talking about, and I think also John at one point.
The archive.
The possible for the archive, or Mal maybe even using it for the jail roof. This money could be dropped into the general fund, or we can just leave it committed here and.
Motion to drop into the general fund.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously.
The next one's the Bridal House Reserve, and this is where they had some stuff they sold from the Bridal House, and it can be used for anything from the Bridal House. There's several items that we paid for improvement and utilities toward the Bridal House that they never posted toward that. So the question was, it looks like to me that this commitment doesn't actually exist at this point.
Motion to move to the general fund.
What's the dollar amount on
$22,019.
Yes, second.
And they don't use this for anything?
Well, what happened is they were using it for repairs and improvements to the Bridal House from the sales, but the county's also been paying out of other areas for improvements and utilities at the same time. That's more than that. So really, you should be, unless you have a policy contrary, posting toward restricted, committed, assigned, and then unassigned to that order, but they've been posted the other way in the past, and nobody's really made them. So my recommendation would be to probably remove this particular commitment. Clean up the books.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. I think that is it, isn't it, Mr. Long?
On that, and then the next one is the long-term planning sheet.
Yep.
Start with the general fund. Based on the county commission's current rules, you should have the current year budget and 2 plans for the coming fiscal years. When we do that, if you go to the left page. And this is why I put them in pink and go down and kind of show what it looks like. This year, when we estimated based on average expense budgets and everything, we're showing a 449, 914 pickups, about what you want to see. The next 2 years, we're showing significant deficits. One of the reasons I believe is because we're actually using trend expenditures, and you guys are part of the governing body and the budget committee. So the question is, we probably need to look at, or you guys need to look at some of those trends and potentially adjust them down.
Here's the one I would like to look at, is the sheriff's department.
Hit public
So the
safety.
sheriff's department had a big increase in 1 year because of the SROs, which is an anomaly, and I bet it's throwing this off.
So the question is, if you go over, if you go, I'm sorry, just to the red. if you look at this, basically what this is the actual forecast for that, and then what we did is we actually added in the COVID-19 pay fund. So it's actually using all this trend data, and it did include several SRO officers during that
So
time.
those, we're not gonna be getting them, like, we're not gonna be getting 50 new SROs year over year over year, or even like that averaged out. So I think if we removed, moved down, from whatever that average is to a growth of, let's say 2 sheriff's deputies, let's be a little more conservative, let's say 5.
Well, maybe a percent what would you guys say would be the max percent increase a year?
Percent increase for the sheriff's
Yeah,
department?
if we took because since all the data is not really useful because it's got all the.
Yeah, that's the problem.
If we just do this times a reasonable percentage. Kind of like this one down here, it's why it's marked in red, it's skewed.
I don't like doing
This
that,
one's
though.
skewed
That's
because
kinda-
we opened up dispatch back in these years. The ones I've got bright red are the ones I believe are significantly skewed due to change in history and with the change in commissioners. Man, just do plus that 20 million divided by the 17 to show what percent this, that one line is over here on the side, if you don't care.
Yeah, I would like to see what the growth percent is year over year.
Do that, and it's a large.
For just that, just that one, that's the problem, like, and then we can.
Yeah, right there, show them what percent that is of that. It's 117%, so if you brought that down to a limit of what?
Well, it's 117, so it's 17% growth.
It's 17% growth, so if you brought your growth limit down to whatever you think's reasonable. And then we probably need to bring jail up, because it's the same direct, it's going up.
Let's see, what happens if we go bring that, what if we do that, I mean, let's be a little more.
I was
organized.
thinking 8.
I was gonna say 7, let's go 7.
Just do plus this times 1.07.
We're just talking about sheriff's deputies, not SROs.
Well, that's part of what happened here, because the SROs got added in, it grew the whole amount.
Yeah, because as far as this executive order number 97, we need to be careful with that right there. Use that money first.
Oh, no, that's 100% right. This is purely for projections,
Okay.
purely for projections. Because that huge amount of growth in that department skewed our projections, made them all.
Okay, that actually.
That's right, we're not gonna do it again.
That actually corrected your 25 year pretty well.
All right, so what's that look like now?
25 looks good, but you still look bad in 26, but you may want to look at some of the other departments. I marked the ones in red that are large and.
What departments are those other ones?
The jail's probably okay, because it does go up and down like that, and we did add in all the changes. Consolidated dispatch could be a little high because it opened up during those periods, but the other day when the discussion was down here, they were talking about some salary adjustments and other things, so it makes me a little worried. Copy down there and see what percent that, the consolidated dispatch is actually increasing there. But that's the one that's also part of your interlocal agreement.
Yeah.
I'm a little.
That's that one, I'm hesitant to monkey with that one.
It's only 103% anyway, based on its history.
Yeah, that's not really the.
Let's go up there and open up EMS and let him look at it too. It's another large department. And show him the percents on those. It's 107 based on history.
I mean, that doesn't sound crazy. That doesn't sound crazy. I mean, we're gonna try to keep it below that, obviously, but. And this is a good exercise, because it kind of shows you just how tight we need to be.
Open up your general government on there and see if there's any books weird in there.
Good job.
Development services, because he was adding engineers, because several years ago, the engineer function in the county was completely abolished. Several departments were back in, what year was that?
Well, we just did a big bump for them, that's not gonna be.
See what changes from here to here based on what percentages.
And we increased their.
Yeah, you can stop that.
Yeah, that should,
Yeah, we just increased their fees, so
that should net out.
Right, but it would be captured in this year,
Yeah,
right
in the
here.
he should already be captured in the revenue.
So let's see, but in the past, they're 119%.
Yeah, so that we can bring that, yeah, so that's a big one, we can bring that down.
To
Probably
107.
107. With seven, I mean, reasonable.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was looking at the risk management.
where are we at now? Now what we're looking like?
You see that last year, 2026 is your biggest, is the hardest one.
No, I can't. What's the? I couldn't see it. What was the?
Going back down.
How much do we need to change?
About 1.2 million.
1.2 million. Woof. Well, hey, what's the second year on the? Well, let's look at the sheriff again, because we need to change it both years. Is that going to back up? Did it go to 107 then back up to 117?
Yeah,
We did both years.
We did both years. We
Okay.
traded it down.
It was 3.5 million, roughly, and that's that 1.2.
Go on down and open up some of those other, detail down through there, like,
We may have to end up.
we looked at that.
3 years, maybe another penny or two, but we're going to. Hey, well, actually, hey, David, does this account for the fact that we're going to have to move like 11 pennies next year?
No. You left it on there.
There's our, that saves us. I mean, that right there saves us, right? Because we're going to have to move those.
You're gonna have to move some, so if you move some in 26 over to this fund.
11 pennies is $7 million.
Yeah, that's $8 million.
So you want me to go up in 2026 and kick up property tax by some?
Yeah, that's what we do. We need to account for that.
Open up property tax and then.
That solves the problem,
What's
which
it
is why I
add,
was not making
1.2
sense to me, because I had
million
done that math.
In here.
Yeah, so we don't know exactly what the penny will bring, so, just add $1.2 million to it.
Yeah, that's gonna solve the problem right there. No, we're good. In fact, we should be good for another
Go
2-3
down to
years
how
after
close we
this.
are too. I think we might have undershot it, still time to bid.
And if you do that, you don't have to hold to the 7%
Well, I want to though, because I wanna be building
Yeah,
that
I'm just
reserve
saying that
fund.
if you had
You
an
see the
emergency
reserve-
that popped
Did you see
up.
the reserve fund for the schools? I want $100 million reserve fund. That's what I want.
That would put you 77,587 estimated change up if you did that. With moving a few pennies, that would be less than 2 pennies
Yeah, I mean, but by statute, we're gonna have to move 11.
somewhere. The thing is, if you don't move those, what happens, you have to count, if you don't have a modified debt service fund because you've got excess funds in it, then you have to count those amounts towards your earnings, toward arbitrage earnings. The only way to get around that is to create, and because I actually talked to the guy today to make sure I understood too. He said the only way he could think to get around was to actually create an escrow account. If we said we were gonna rebate in the 2015 bond, we can create a physical escrow account, put funds in there, and it will not have that effect. But it will have an effect on the 2015 only, but the 2015 bond has a $6 million negative escrow, so you could do that. But we're gonna have to create an escrow account for the 15 bond. inside
What's the rate on that 2015 bond?
Probably the ones we'd be refunding is 3%.
Yeah. I mean, we could put it in a CD for 5.5.
And yeah, the CDs are about 4 and going on 5, and then on top of that, you would probably be better off if you had excess to stick it in your capital projects fund and pay as you
Yeah.
go. Because the cost of funds are up right now.
So
Not anticipated to go down
So
anytime soon.
moving those pennies, does that solve the problem?
That solves that problem, then 112, 122 is fine, debt service has excess. So let's go to debt service, and in 2026, pull 1.2 million out of its revenue. Out of property taxes.
Do we need to vote on anything else?
I don't know that we need to.
Well, we need to look at 131 and 171, and then,
Well, actually, we should probably take a vote on the worksheet, because we did just change some assumptions here.
I'm gonna pull 1.2 million out of this revenue.
Okay.
It's gotta come from somewhere. And then let's go look at highway, because it's got, and then.
Well, before we move on here, does everybody understand what we just did? Because we're moving quick.
You're just adjusting the rate of growth is all you're doing. It's just
Because
projection.
here's, 2 things happened. The SROs, because we added 50 of those.
Right.
It totally skewed that and made it up to 170%.
So we reduced the
We reduced that to
percentage.
be more realistic. We
Yeah.
did the same thing for Josh Sutton, because same thing, we just bumped them way up.
Right.
Then what we realized is that, again, next year, we're gonna have
An excess.
an excess of what we can put into debt service, that we will run afoul of
Because
federal
we
arbitration.
paid something off.
Correct.
Okay.
So because of that, we will have to move 10 or 11 pennies out of debt service. We accounted for that, and that cleared us on our deficit spending.
And like David explained, I think at the last meeting, is that you can only have so much in there. And unless you're willing to call all those bonds and you don't have that cash sitting there,
Right.
you're
You're
gonna have to
gonna
do
take
something
Right.
with it.
Right.
And then the question is, why we want to like, that's why I asked the question about 3%.
Right.
Or what the percentage was.
And
Right.
let me be clear also, I left a lot of these trends knowing they could potentially be wrong, because you guys are the governing body and you'll decide what actually happens. I can't really change the trend, I have no effect on it.
Right.
So-
Right here, we're in the highway fund, and it shows, it's got a positive reserve, but it shows a significant amount of reserves used each year. Do you wanna leave it that way? That's one where Toby's saying he's having, major issues with inflation.
State that last part again.
But Toby's also saying he's had major issues
Well,
with
no,
inflation.
before that.
If you look right here, this is the amount of reserves based on these projections. It's gonna be, go to the top of expenditures we're looking at there, going down. This year, we're estimating he's gonna use some, next year, but it looks like an increasing amount of reserves. Doesn't go negative based on our projections right now.
I mean, I think we're probably okay. I mean, what is that, 3 years out?
Yeah, that'd be 2,000 going, that'd be 2026. We don't show 27 or 8.
I don't think it makes sense to change that at this point.
He'll have every road in the county paved with them.
Yeah.
But the next one's your long term, and this is the one where it's a little different than the rest of them going over with. It's got more years based on the rules, and you've got large deficits, but if you go back, it's like jerky, isn't it? If you go up, we actually have the details of everybody's request in here. So the only way to get rid of these deficits is to look at what people are actually requesting for outgoing years. That was it's off their long-term planning sheets where they've asked for buildings or whatever they've asked for.
Okay, go ahead, Mr.
I just got one question for David on this sheet and the other sheet. I wanna know what's behind the blacked out cost.
On the far right,
Yeah.
that's 2 more years that you guys will have on your presentation.
All right.
This one's the same way, it goes out more years than, since we're gonna be doing this for several years, I went ahead and built extra years out that we can hide.
Hey, I didn't want you to be hiding something.
So,
No, they're built out for future years.
so explain again.
Go ahead, go up there and open it up like, yeah, it's back. Yeah, she's on the bottom. Yeah, you would. General manager.
Okay.
Go up to the top. So it's like-
We guys turn this into state.
Yeah, so this is the long-term thing. I was on my second go. Started.
Okay, if you open the first one, Beth, and we'll kind of start with the easiest first. Keep your plus. You're right there. There you go. This one, if you look, general administration, that is the trustees commission. Not a lot you can do about it, it's a percentage. But then you go down in your next large, and then they got things in here like other general government projects. What is that, Beth?
Huh? That's just,
What's it right here?
Oh, is this just was this in the long-term requests from the different departments?
Different departments, this is all the requests, all the years across, yep. And this is the 4 additional years. Most of your costs would be like EMS requested some buildings, that's a big.
Yeah, but
one.
we're gonna move those to ARPA, right? So
You moved 2 of them, so let's go look at
let's
EMS
kill that.
buildings.
That should help.
There's your IT costs right there.
Yeah.
Go to find it, they'll be under public safety, so you like to hit.
not even
That should actually, doing those
Oh, I'm sorry.
two buildings should actually solve that problem.
Public health and welfare. Find the EMS stuff, right here we go. This is what they've got requested.
But you'd have to dig in that, some of that's vehicles, I think, some of
Well,
it's.
it's divided out.
like if you don't.
Yeah, they got names of cardiac monitors, buildings.
Where are the buildings, like we should be able to remove the buildings, right?
Yes, those are,
Station.
they're station 15. Like those ones.
Is that one, was that 1.9?
Yep.
That's why I wanted to move that to, so we should be able to kill that 1.9, right?
Yeah, there's all these different stations here too.
This is,
Yeah, he's got a bunch of
this is
stations.
new EMS, these are.
Yeah, the state, well, we just need to know, the station 8 and the 9 are the ones we just talked about, right? I mean, I know they've got it at one point.
I think 24, we've already removed those 2 he requested, so I don't know if these are, he's got a whole lot of them.
Because he had requested, I think, I feel like I have to go back now, but he requested 3, one of which we initially approved on ARPA. And that was the one where we considered moving it over to the Resource Authority.
She's pulling his location.
Okay. let's just make sure they match up, because I think we may be able to remove those two. It's less, right? We're just giving them $1 million and $1 million thereabouts, but
I think it was 154, I think.
8 is Oak Road, 9 is Castellian.
okay. Where's the White House?
White House is in the new station.
Oh, that's the news station. Well, but,
11 is Shackle Island.
yeah,
Build them all.
I mean,
There's nothing wrong with Castelli.
This one's.
well,
a
so we
new-
can, I mean, we can do a couple things here. I mean, we programmed 2 over into ARPA. I mean, we could just say no to some of this.
These are just projections. How much over are we? Like,
Go down and show
like,
Mr. Baker how much you're over.
You don't mean to
There's
have
the-
to.
You're shrinking at about $2 million a year on the first 2 and $1 million a year on the next 2.
Yeah.
These are your,
Probably X out Castelli Springs from
All right. So what's how much do we need to
you
drop?
only need to trim probably about 2.4, 2 million, $1 million, 1.1 and 2 million. More in those years, we kind of balance your capital out.
So scroll up, we should drop Castilian Springs.
You drop those 2, you'll balance that year.
Which 2 of those? One's Castilian Springs, kill that one.
That was 9.
Eight is Oak Grove, 9 is Castellian.
So cut out 9.
Cut out 9. That goes a long way toward it right there. Now where are we at?
852,000.
So we need to drop another 850,000. Go up to those vehicles. There's like. Where is it? Hold on a minute. Motor vehicle, okay, those are ambulances. I think those we pretty much have to. We still need to do this
There's a
for,
command one right there.
yeah, kill that command vehicle.
Right there to the side.
Don't mess with the ambulances.
There's another command vehicle over there on the far right too.
Yeah. So EMS Station 11 replacement, what's that? Which one is that?
Shackle Island.
What is,
That's probably,
is there any,
Well, we killed it.
are we killing, let's kill that. Any reason to keep that? All right, let's kill that. Kill that. All right, now let's see what we're looking at.
We're looking 852 for 25, 26, pretty good, be a little better. 27 and 8 still needs quite a bit off.
All right, so let's go up. What else can we look at? 25.
See what other departments up there look like that.
Where's that 2 million right there?
That's
Public
a
health and wellness.
That's a subtotal, yeah.
What is that public health and wellness?
That's the subtotal.
That's
one
the
below.
subtotal for the.
Okay,
Yeah, those are subtotals that are unhid.
gotcha.
And then public safety has the sheriff's department vehicles. Keep going up this. Is there? That's all he's got. So what's under general government, just trustees commission? All out here.
Where's that?
What's the general?
What's that general government project? What's that guy?
That's a
Total, what's driving it?
vehicles,
Vehicles for, is that building codes?
codes and assessors.
Yeah, we don't need those.
Which years, all of them, or just part of them?
I mean, neither of them.
What is that? Building?
That's for vehicles for
Oh, for
assessors and
for
building
Josh's
codes, yeah.
department?
Delete
Like I
all
said,
of
you
them?
can have nice vehicles or raises, they got raises.
You want us to get all the years, or just the?
Let's just kill it next year. Kill it every other year.
You can kill 27 then.
Yeah, like, we'll evaluate it, see what that looks like. That's still not gonna solve, that's still at 2025 is the
That
problem.
100 right
This
there.
is moving away.
What's that 100?
Says moving elections,
Moving,
voter storage, Rotomax, voter storage unit, elections.
what is,
No, it's more full operation here, I think.
move it?
I think it's.
Is this for the move?
More full operational election.
Full
Or
operations.
full
All
operation.
that.
Is this move to the TRC?
No, I don't think so.
What is that?
Well, it's close in price. It's 90,000, I
I
think.
say we kill that. Kill that guy.
There's a
mean-
Rotomax voter storage unit elections, I think that's the storage unit.
That's some 27.
What is it?
What is a
What
rotor?
we all said.
They did have a
Yeah, I mean,
before they put out the voter cards.
What's the 175?
Beth thinks that's probably a voter card storage.
the 175 is network storage?
Yeah, that's one.
This is all IT now.
Yeah, that needs to be replaced every 3 to 4 years most of the time. 3, 4, 5. It was actually a while.
Scroll down a little bit. What the bottom line?
There's convenient vote centers, election.
There you go, there's 200. I mean,
Can't we just axe that?
Look, we can talk about this one, I think we can axe that 200, I mean, this is my opinion, and I'll state it openly. We don't have, we were not presented any data that $218,000 is gonna, from what I'm hearing, we're gonna reduce the total number of facilities that people can go to. So we're gonna have fewer locations people can vote for. No data showing that it increases voter turnout, and data, when we looked at benchmarking, showing that places where that it had implemented convenience voting actually increased their spend. So I think we should kill that. That's my opinion.
I agree. Let's kill it.
Okay, do we need to vote on it? All right, I think we're good. Now let's see where we're
I
at.
think we probably do need to vote.
All right, do we want, we'll vote on that one, just so it's on the record here. All right, and this is specific, I think we get agreement on everything except this is just voting on the election commission. My motion was to remove that 218,000. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Mr. Harrison opposes. All right. Now what do we look like?
You need to cut
Need
some more.
450. We gotta find 450.
What's agriculture, Beth? Go back down. It says agriculture, natural resources, or which one is it? That's highway, that's for his penny, that was promised to the highway.
I don't know.
There was a penny, and that's the estimated amount of penny that of the trustees commission was promised to the highway department at the last tax raise. That's
What's that supposed to be saving us money?
It's the same amount.
What is that? What? Yeah, building expansion?
Here.
Agriculture, natural resources that year has $500,000 request for building expansion.
I'm feeling 300.
Yeah, let's go to 300. I like that.
That
All right,
looks good. Now,
so we solved that one. All right, we're still on 2025 though. Where's that 658?
It's highway.
Highway was promised at the last tax raise, 1 penny for equipment when the taxes was raised last
Well,
time.
we just gave a lot of equipment though. We just.
I mean, it was put in there in lieu of they give you the whole, it was put there in lieu of the highway fund just for one reason, to guarantee they would have equipment replacement indefinitely. And the penny was put over here for that. When they actually
Just for 1 year?
No, it was indefinitely, it was just a penny every year. It was actually levied, but when they raised the taxes, it was actually on the chart or table that was put out there by.
So that was that was part of.
It was a promise to the highway department when the
Okay,
tax.
well,
raise.
I don't want to, okay, I get that. I don't want to mess with that. So let's scroll down here.
Yeah, these are library remodels.
Is the 156 the total?
What's that, 75,000?
Yes.
Maintenance and
Gallatin
repairs?
Library carpet flooring.
Carpeting for Gallatin, it's all wrinkled and it's a
Yeah.
trip hazard.
Yeah, we need that.
Scroll down.
Now Hendersonville did have a large donation this last year that's at some point is gonna need to be appropriated.
So what-
It can
so-
be
I
used for-
need to get with you and figure out what's going on.
It can be used for anything for library.
Still got 400 something thousand.
Well, what, go up, there's some big numbers
Mr.
up
Ismail.
above
There's
it.
still more of those EMS numbers.
That's
These guys.
ambulance.
Oh, those are
Ambulances.
ambulances?
And that station was Oak Grove. Here's what we're gonna have to, we need to de-scope that guy. Can we get Oak Grove for 1.2?
Yeah,
Let's do 1.2 to Oak Grove and that solves the problem.
Are you replacing it or just remodeling
well, he's got one building, he wants another, and that's around 400,000, 450, I
So
think.
I would say scope that to 1. And then we're very, very,
There.
yeah. Now we've solved the problem.
What about out here?
it? She definitely fixed the problem.
Yeah.
She's trying to.
That should make it,
Yeah, now we're good.
Good, good. Now
Okay.
you just got the last 2 years.
Now we go to
Got
2027.
$1 million and $2 million.
Scroll up. Where's that? We're gonna find numbers in that EMS.
Yeah, they got 2 buildings. No, that's a building there.
what is that?
What is that one?
Station
It's a
15.
new station.
Oh, well, wait.
That's gonna cost you employees too. That's the one that was, I think you said it'll cost 9 new employees also if we get
Yeah.
right house.
Wait, what is that?
That's a new station.
Oh, new station.
Yeah.
Where?
Up in,
You got that in 2027?
2027.
It's an area of the county which might be waiting. Is it White House where?
Was that the one in White House?
Yeah.
Because that's the one we considered doing for ARPA. The problem with that is, well, we only put $1 million to it, not 1.9. And the problem with this is that, and this is why we may need to worry about this in ARPA. I think regardless, we can strike this, but the real problem with this is gonna be that we're gonna have to add 9 new personnel. That's the problem with that guy. So I think that we strike that for now.
Okay, so now we get $2 million out of last year.
Yeah.
So now you're over to the 2028.
We can come back and revisit that.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It's just, it's this year. You're dedicated.
Yeah, that's command vehicles. Did you want to leave those?
So we need to get 2 million. So what are the big hitters?
So one of them's your command vehicles and then,
Yeah, but there's 2 million over. There gotta be some big hitters here.
there is, that's what we're trying to find out through here.
Let's wait.
Fold it back up and see which category it's actually in. It's easier to fall if we just close all those up. So it'll have to be a category it's way up.
There's some.
I agree. We can come back to that.
It should make it big.
See it.
But we have been slowly bleeding reserves, so maybe what it is.
Something's drastically up.
Close it up right now. $6 million, so which one is it?
None of it.
Click that formula there. Click that formula there. Copy that over there, so it's copy that thing wrong. This control C copied over there, so that one does not get a problem. There you go.
Matt?
Yep.
This,
What's
There
the
you go.
formula to the left though? Just to make sure we did it right.
Click the one on the left too.
when does a penny change value?
Every assessment.
Yeah.
Every year it probably grows, but on assessment it's reimbursed.
All right. Okay,
And not
we're-
discounted.
I'll make a motion to accept the changes.
Second. Any discussion on this?
Question here.
You got a question?
No, I'm calling.
All right, I'll call the question. All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, great, long term's done.
Mr. Mayor, when's our next reassessment on property?
Next year.
Not for this fiscal year, for next fiscal year. but-
Okay, additional discussion items. David, what are we missing here?
The only one left is what me and you talked about, which was the contract.
I think
it's something new.
I'm good where I'm at after. I think I'm good.
Oh, I'm not talking about my contract.
Oh, your contract. Your contract, sorry, Rob. Well, no, my bad. So that's where we're starting, actually, fair enough, sorry.
No, and this is kind of what we ran into.
We talked about a lot of
He
things.
sure looks surprised.
Well, no, it would have been beneficial for him if I would have been like, we're good with that. So I'll cut the, I'll bring it out.
And I've
here.
even talked to, I think Eric is, or he's.
He went
So,
upstairs.
the way Mr. Long's contract is cut is that he gets, it's based on the highest salary increase. But because of what we did for Mr. Sutherland's department, because of that percentage increase, it went way high. So what we were talking about doing, and you freely noted that, and we're talking about putting a cap on it.
My intent was to get somewhere between, like the 8th is in here to the top 15, with Josh it's like 28. That was not the intent, so I was telling Matt, I've got the bottom number in here right now. I think the best thing would be to talk to, like Mr. Hyde, your chairman, me and him to negotiate something amicable with caps on the bottom and top and some.
I'll make that motion.
To bring to the next budget meeting, and then I'll put something
Yeah.
reasonable in here.
You mean next week?
Yeah.
Yeah, but right now, it's in the
Mr. Hyde, you
lower
good
dollar.
with
but
that,
we want to-
negotiating?
That was not my intent for 28,000. Eric, I think Eric's comment was he didn't know I wanted to change it.
Well, you're opening up the contract, he may claw it back from you, you know. so
Well, no,
we'll see.
what Eric said to me was he wasn't sure I wanted to change it, because it was actually, the way it was written, it would even be worth it.
So motion's on the table to have Mr. Hyde be our negotiating party for this body.
Well, I don't want to give up that bad taste in my mouth, so I'm gonna go.
No, you did the righteous thing.
Appreciate that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Was that the only other?
Well, besides budget publication,
No, I don't see.
and if you have anything from the hearings.
Any other notes? Yeah, does anybody else have anything?
When are we need to address the election commission.
Did you, because you got the presidential.
If you want, I mean, or we can keep it where we've got it.
Yeah, I think it makes sense if the presidential election, if it's in line, and I can't remember the exact number, but it's somewhere around like $70,000, is that?
It was in the salaries. We didn't look at her non-salary, but I mean, the salaries is where she's got the most issues, because she's got a presidential preference she asked for.
So what are you suggesting?
Well, if the request is for $70,000, well, see, I don't know it apples to apples, what she presented versus what's in her sheet. Because now, if we took what she presented and we backed out the TRC building and the early voting.
You mean the convenience voting?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
We have the
Convenience
history.
voting. There was still about a $70,000 gap.
So
Can you unfold the history for
So
me?
my thought is,
Summary sheet on the budget.
let's see if it makes sense to put any of that back in.
So they had our last presidential preference would have been, what, 4 years ago? So we should better look at the budget 4 years before us.
Yeah.
Is Miss Lori right? She might be.
I see where you're going.
Go back.
Yeah, I don't wanna short it 70,000.
Right.
So we're in 2000. I'd have those three. I'd have those four right.
So
there.
the real, we went back 2 years. We should really go back to the last presidential.
That's right.
2020.
2%, 2%, and then go.
57,000 was the presidential.
Okay, what's that number?
Well, the move was 218 and 235. The convenience was
So
94,000.
57,000 is what's left.
57,000 is
Okay.
what's
So if
left.
we look at elections, so it would have been 4 years ago, would it not? We're looking at 24, so
19 and 20.
I think it's 2020.
No, it's 19 and 20, I think, isn't it?
I think it's that.
It's 2021.
I think it's this one.
What's that?
Because hers runs in like a cycle based on the number of.
Yeah, no, I
elections.
get it.
Cycle for the president.
Because if you look, this is what we actually spent that year.
budget year.
Yeah, that one's not a comparative because that's got election machines in it. But here's like your comparative year. And there, see, it's a lot bigger, see how it gets big? You just make those kind of, blue or something.
Yeah, so take the trend on those guys. That's would be probably the right thing to do.
So let's just say, what would you think would be an annual reasonable increase from that 103,354?
Well, haven't we been using 7%?
Yeah, it sounds
Well,
reasonable.
if we want to do it the way we did was, we 2% cost of living, or 3% cost of living for everybody. 3% increase across the board.
Well, if you add the $70,000 in there, it's
$1,048,000.
Yeah, $1,048,000, so,
Well, that's actually pretty close.
yeah.
So it's not actually 70, it's 57, Mr. Klein?
Yeah,
I think there's some benefits on that too. There's some good
So,
benefits.
so what you're making the motion, what the consideration here is?
Let's make it 60.
60,000.
60's fine.
All right, so is there a motion here?
Well, let me ask, can I ask,
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Long, if we say bump this up 60, can you figure out the line items?
What does ask me actually which ones that's about?
Okay.
Because I think right now, if you're looking just at the salaries, we could go put those in, it'll be a little more than 60 though.
So Mr. Klein, how was it 57 instead of 70? It was just bad math on my part.
The move was 218, 235, and the convenience voting was 94, which gives us a total of 312, 890
Correct.
from 370,000 total.
And the 370 was a quick add, it may have been a little more.
I thought
Oh.
someone said it was like 380 something.
Oh, okay, well, the number I got was
312.
370.
370.
Or 370, sorry, yeah.
We were adding real quick.
Okay. So the 312, so I want to make a motion to add $75,000 here.
I'll say that.
All right, I would like to amend your motion to add, to make it, what was that number?
57.
57,000. Somebody
Let's
second that.
let's back up here. So Becker made the motion for add 75,000. Harrison second.
And Show
And then-
is making the motion to add 57,000, which is the difference of, we're carving out convenience vote centers and the move to the TRC and bringing it in line with a presidential election, based on that number.
Right.
But I
So
need a
the
second,
amendment was by Shove and the,
and I need a second.
I'll give a
So,
second.
Mr. Klein gives a second.
okay.
Discussion.
Yeah, go ahead.
Rather than overcomplicate this, can we just split the baby in half and make it 65 and be done with it?
Either way.
I'd be fine with that.
I want 60.
You guys could put in the request really quick, just on the salary portion here, which is about somewhere around that, and see what it looks like. We could do it in probably like 2-3 minutes. Would that help?
Yes.
Sure.
Go over to the status, put the request in.
Everybody says this would happen. We do all these millions and we fight over $5,000.
I'm okay with that. Change this number right
You're not
here.
fixing to start flipping them sheets back and forth and give me a headache, are you?
No, I don't plan to, but I may though. That one needs to have 11,000, in the overtime, 11,879, I'm sorry, 871.
I mean, do what you want.
That's adjustment,
I
64
was
times
actually of the thought to do something.
Well, I'm saying, I think it
Heard
would.
that?
These all need to have 236 in them. And you need to believe in those when you get 236.
We're so close. We're so
And then come
close.
down here and delete this 4,900 cost of living, that one. And then that that was it one, well, she actually had one. That's fine, just delete that.
It doesn't change.
Unhide the color of the head column, because that is.
Said
Well,
it
go
take
hit
2
undo,
minutes,
hit
David.
undo, I know what you do, that's fine. Hit undo, put minus 49.50. 126,345. Now see what the front looks like. That way we have her numbers and we can kind of work backwards from there easier. Put your 1,058,000.
What was it before?
I got it right here. I got it right here. I'll get it for you. It was 978,
So it was about
619.
75,000.
I tell
Dang
you
it.
what, every now and then I get. So I'll keep my motion at 75.
All right, I'll withdraw mine. I'll withdraw my amendment. I should have done the 60, because that's when he actually folded it back in there.
Yeah.
All right, we got any more discussion on this? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion
So that
passes.
motion was for 75,000.
Right.
Okay, any other
Was it
items?
75 or leave it that amount there?
75. The motion was 75.
Well, okay. I thought we were going with that, but that's.
We go with that.
Well, that's actually less. Yours is actually less than that.
And this is actually her request
So
on
I'm good with,
salaries.
well, you know what, I'm good with 75, because yours is actually less.
Because it was, What was the difference?
Well, we had 978. Let me see what it looks like with the 75 and 90, whatever.
I was making sure you didn't.
No, I didn't forget.
Yeah, if you've
Okay,
got
just
the.
making sure. Yeah. Yeah.
I know. All right, is there any other discussion, anything we wanted to bring up based on the hearings today? Any motions?
What are we
Okay,
on?
Mr.
Oh, they're gonna
Becker.
approve publication.
And
We got one item. Go ahead, Mr. Becker.
in the last meeting, I had asked about the responsibilities or whatnot, to map out what the HR department does versus proposed, and sort of map it out and see what functions are missing, or what functions aren't mapped.
I can answer what I was discussing. The only thing I was discussing on my end was actually pulling back in or doing the actual enrollment process is what we used to do. And then the question was, as far as the complaints, was to do it about the resolution. And then the actual, I think the discussion was moving the employee back to Mr. Sittler's, but there was no discussion as far as job descriptions or doing personnel policies or doing in-person complaints or any of those kind of functions.
So I might make a note on just that this maybe belongs with the benefits committee. Like, and we can make that a totally,
I guess that's true.
that committee can study this and come to that, you know.
I mean,
come to its
because here's
recommendation.
my opinion, right? This is the budget committee, right? This is not determining what functions are doing, right? This is funding the functions and responsibilities that are deemed needed by whomever. And we just say, yes, we'll fund it or not. So, I mean, to me, if the functions aren't needed or required for whatever reason, then we're not gonna fund it.
I'm just speaking on my end for enrollments, that's what we need, and it works. I can't say what the rest of the county, that'd be more like Mr. Isabel up here, but as Mr. Shoke mentioned, you do have an employee benefits committee that Mr. Isabel is a non-voting member and you have 2 commissioners. If you left cost in for HR and salary, consultants, whatever you think's appropriate for a long enough period for them to just study what's necessary, that would be a way to find out. Whereas if you left half the year's salary and maybe put half a year's consultant and then they determined whether or not they needed this function and, you know, left it as a department or outsourced it, whatever they needed appropriate. That's a possibility, I don't know. But that's just a thought.
Regardless of whatever this committee or the commission decides, I do not believe that 60 days is enough. I think we at least need to consider going through at least some type of severance through the end of the year. That is my thoughts. I'm only one vote, but I just think 60 days is not enough.
Mr. Isabel?
This is something that David and I talked about, because I think in our discussions, I think we all agree that there never has been a clear implementation of this whole program. And that's problematic. And David and I talked about possibly doing 6 months where we sit down, map out HR, what we want it to look like in Sumner County, and work with David, Cheryl, myself, and build an HR department that would serve the needs of Sumner County employees. I don't think there's really, you know, I think everybody agrees that we need some type of HR function, because we're talking about outsourcing. So I think if we keep it in-house and keep a general control on it, at least try, because we haven't been able to map that out yet. And I think that if we do that over a 6-month period, we sit down in 6 months, David and I have a clear review of it, and we'll be able to know where we are.
The other thoughts on, sorry, Matt.
No, it's okay, just one thought here, because I might push back a bit on in agreement that we need an HR function, and I think, you know, I originally had several questions about the functions of it, and still do, but what is different, because I try to keep drawing back parallels to just private sector jobs, but it is really different in government, because a lot of the functions that HR provides just don't work when you've got constitutional officers. An HR department could write a policy for recruiting or for any number of things, and the sheriff is under there's no enforcement mechanism. And so I would argue that I don't know that we necessarily have an agreement that that's the case.
Well,
go ahead, Mr. Becker.
Well, just real quick, I mean, we had, last meeting we were in, we had an elected position, Ms. Strong, like, learn, like, what possibilities are even out there by the HR function. So I think some of it, to your point, but I think some of it goes back to Mr. Isbell's comment about it not being implemented very, to the best maybe it could have been. So I would like to make a motion to fund it until at the end of the calendar year, so December 31.
And I think we should take.
I don't want to put.
Yeah, and doing. Yeah, I'm sorry. Fund it to the end of the year, and then going back to what Mr. Isbell said about doing the study, and then, before the end of the year, it might come back to us and we extend it. But this gives it at least to the end of the year.
Let's see if there's going to be a second.
So that's my background.
Well, let's see if there's a second.
I'll second.
Okay, so there's a second. Mr.
I think we should pull the enroll, I'm sorry.
No, I don't want to put Mr. Hyde on the spot, but he's a wealth of knowledge, and I say that respectfully, and
Here it comes.
but I did hear you. I think the last meeting you said, we never really had an HR department, and I don't remember the exact. I think you said one time maybe we had it.
We've only had one HR department prior to this. I think it lasted maybe 3 or 4 years, 3 maybe. But it was done away with during a budget period of time. That and engineering.
And Moulton, Mr. Mike Moulton's, the debris cleanup office.
It had nothing to do with necessarily trying to find a way to make something work. It was, we're in a crunch. Do we raise taxes for the citizens of Sumner County, or do we try to find money? And with this department, it's no criticism of anyone or any department. It's a department that is probably one that could be cut. It has been cut previously to save money and resources. I would even make a suggestion, and I'm not going to tonight, and I won't, but there are other areas of government that could be cut out, in my opinion, that we would operate just as well. But I think we made a wise decision in trying to find funds. Not that these ladies have not worked hard, but that's not the issue.
Yeah. Mr. Klein?
My concern, and I think I was misrepresented in a recent newspaper article.
Get used to it.
My point was, with every different organization, there's a different set of rules with HR. And as you aptly pointed out, with government, it's much, much different than the private industry, which is what I'm familiar with. The term Cheryl used repeatedly was she was thwarted. And I don't, John, you're the only one I can go to answer how was she thwarted.
Yeah, I don't know that there's you can feel thwarted, but I don't think it's about, I think it's just the structure of, and this is where I have come to after really mulling this over. This is the structure of how government works, and it's not that anybody is being thwarted, it's that you don't really have any authority over these.
Constitutional.
Yeah, sorry, I cut you off.
No.
They're gonna have to agree to work with her. There's a lot of things she mentioned that would be very good, but like personnel policies, the elected officials can write their own with legal review. it would be good for her to work, an HR person, but they're gonna have to agree to that. The job description she's got are from the, very good, but they're gonna have to agree to it. So kind of my point being the same thing, what I discussed is what I need for payroll, because I have to audit payroll, which is the enrollment. I think right now it'd be best to pull the enrollment in, but then as Mr. Isbell said, explore what you as a commission and a group want for HR. And the only way to find out is for us to explore it for the next 6+ months. I agree, it's the only way to really know.
Yeah, well, and I don't know about the word thwarted. It has been difficult, and it's because the lines have not been clearly drawn. She's not had a clear understanding. And there will have to be relationships built with constitutional officers. Because at the end of the day, you can't tell them what to do. But I can tell you, as a constitutional officer, I would lean on that expertise. And I believe that the others would too. Do they take 100% of it? No, but they lean on it. So, you know, it's an option. You know, I think if we're going to outsource HR, I think I might enjoy having it in-house and being able to use the tools in-house first.
Mr. Brown?
I remember when, we first started the commission, they brought in all their personnel policies, SOPs, whatever, and I spent 2 weeks reviewing all these things. I had all kinds of suggestions, corrections, and then it came down to, we're just voting them up and down. And so even we as a commission have no authority whatsoever over these other constitutional officers, so it's hard. It's, I just don't see,
The policies.
Well, Mr. Harrison was up.
But you gotta convince them, maybe.
Mr. Harrison?
Function.
Oh, did you want to go ahead?
This might,
All right,
this
go
might
ahead.
help.
So, instead of just, going back to my motion was to fund it to the end of the calendar year to give time for this. Just because of a budget standpoint, I would like to maybe change it to fund it for the full fiscal year, but then make a decision by the end of this calendar year if we want to dissolve it then. That way we won't be scrambling to find the money. It would already be there, and then we just dissolve the department. So I would like to change my motion just to fund it for the full fiscal year.
Who had the second one?
I did.
Yeah, the original.
Yeah, and if I could speak for that.
Are you going to second it?
Yeah, I'm seconding it.
Okay, go ahead.
My whole thought process is that like Jerry said a few minutes ago, we're a funding mechanism. Some of these discussions really need to be had in another committee. Like what, not the funding part, but just what HR is going to be doing, who's going to be doing the payroll. It needs to go to the benefits committee.
I agree with that. I agree with that regardless.
Yeah, and I think that if we could go on and just vote on this part up or down, and then if it passes, then maybe we need to refer this back.
I would suggest that it either way, if it passes or not, the benefits committee should.
I would be in agreement with that.
If we choose not to fund it, it's clear that some discussion here needs to.
I agree.
So anyway.
Mine on the enrollment is I'm required by the private act to do the payroll and to audit it, so that's why I say we need to pull those enrollments back in, because it kind of creates a conflict there on its own.
Yeah, so and while the constitutional officer, I'm sorry, I didn't cut you off. While it is true that you cannot tell the constitutional officers how to run their particular functions, what does not change is OSHA, FMLA, and other things inside an HR function that is correctly implemented. Those things don't change. And I fully stipulate, we've probably not had the HR department maybe as long as other counties have. But in 2023, your pool of employees is different than they were 20 years ago, 30 years ago. They're certainly more apt to step up for themselves, I guess you'd say, even in court. So I think it's important that we explore these avenues.
Only one concern about the Employee Benefits Committee. statutorily she'll be an employee of Mr. Isabel, so it may be a question, is he okay with doing it that way? Because she would, actually HR would
We
be
can
her.
work all that out.
That's a different.
That was just a question.
So we've got a
for-
motion on the table, and the motion on the table is now to extend funding for this for the year with a decision at the end of the calendar year on whether to maintain or terminate. Any other discussion on this?
I just, the original was 60 days, then we went to 6 months, then we went to 12 months. I think I will vote no for the 12 months, and here's my reason. I think the 6 months is,
Well, we hadn't done 6 months. That
no,
was-
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
the reason why I would.
He's talking about the discussion.
The 12 months, the reason why I would vote that, I think 6 months, if we're gonna call it compromise, we had 60 days, 6 months, and 12 months. 6 months is in the middle. That's what I'm gonna stick to. That's why I'm gonna vote no to the 12 months.
Well, then I'll move to amend the motion
I think
to take it to the end of,
You'll have to find out.
to 12/31 of
Well, we can just
23.
decide.
Yeah, so I'll change my.
Just change it back to 6 months.
So I'll change it
Okay.
back to the end
All
of
right.
the
Ask him to
calendar
do
year.
that.
So now, Mr. Schmidt, it's back to 6 months. It's back to the end of the
Mr. Schmidt
calendar.
had another idea here. I
Put it
feel
into
like-
salary and consultants.
It's, in other words, put her salary in there and then put what's equal to her salary and benefits, the other half in consultants, and if you decide to go on, you can move it back into her salary and budget or vice
And you
versa.
just move it.
You have all the money there and it will still be the same thing,
To the end of the calendar year.
the fiscal year.
That's
The
kind of
fiscal
what-
year.
So you
In other words,
so you'd maintain it the whole time, it'd just be,
Her salary to the calendar year, and then after the calendar year, her salary and consultants, and at that point, they can make a decision, consultants
it's
or back
basically
in
the same
house.
thing.
You
That's
still have all your
basically
money,
that's basically the same.
you still have all your money,
We
but
would
you have
just
to
have to
split.
reappropriate
Yeah,
a
that's
little bit.
that's
Just
basically the
transfer the
same
budget,
thing,
yeah.
just so you're aware, that's
Right.
basically
I just
his
think,
his
It's,
motion, except you're making it very explicit.
Optics are a little different, but yeah, that's.
I mean, it's just-
Okay,
So,
Was that kind
are
of?
you okay
It
with
forces
that?
our hand to
Okay,
do some
okay.
work.
I'm gonna
You got
change
the
my
other
motion again. And I'm so sorry, I don't even know your name. What's your name?
Beth.
Beth, thank you.
This is
So-
Beth from my office, she's one of our financial analysts, and Miss Allison's on vacations.
welcome to the.
You're doing a
general-
great job.
Welcome to the.
So
general-
Mr. Allison's not going, she's just on vacation.
It's rarely this confusing.
Her head looks like whack-a-mole, it's popping up.
So,
All right.
my motion,
She
my
ready to
motion
go.
is to put the funding in the HR department to the end of the calendar year, and then after that, to the end of the fiscal year, would be to shift that same amount over to the
Consultant line item,
consulting line item.
with the thought that if you want to keep it,
We'll
you can
make that
transfer it.
decision at the end of the year.
Yeah, all right.
right, that's my
So
motion.
We
Any
ready,
second?
does any more other discussion?
Says Becker motion, Harrison second.
One more
clarify
thing.
what Mark said. If I'm the, let's just say, if I'm the court clerk, and I have an employee who has accused me of an OSHA violation, you're entirely right. That's a different issue.
That's a completely different
But
issue.
I may not accept what the mandate is of OSHA or what the mandate of human resources is. I may want to take the hard road.
And
So
you
even though
could.
that is not
You could.
wise to do, you still are in the same.
You absolutely
But-
could, but you would be subject to whatever the ruling would be
Sure,
from
but
the
it's-
court.
No matter what, it's entirely up to
I
the
agree,
county
I agree.
official.
Okay,
That covers the salary, can we put back the operational cost, because it's a small amount too, like phones,
Yes.
the whole year operation.
Yes.
How much are we talking?
It's, I think originally it was somewhere around 186, this winter bill for the whole department. Go look at last year, and it'll be that with the small
Well,
bill.
now, because the other employee was shifted, that,
well, before we do it, let's take the vote
That
here.
stayed.
Let's
Yeah.
take the vote, but before we shift it around, because I mean, we'll be able to make the numbers work, I think.
We can do the numbers later
Yeah,
after this
so let's
meeting.
take the vote. Is there any further discussion on this? So just stay one more time.
all right, so we're gonna,
Sorry.
the funding's gonna be there the whole fiscal year until the end of this calendar year, it'll be in the HR department, and then starting January 1, it will shift to the consulting line.
All right.
If you decide not to keep HR, what if you decide?
It'll go out
Well,
automatically.
then
maybe you can make that
we'll
decision.
shift it back over.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? No. Okay, motion carries.
So better get one now.
You got one. One no is show.
So now
Okay.
we need to put that in there and see. where-
Yeah, now you gotta put it in there.
So that, Because the second employee still in there.
Covered in the
Different
salary.
part.
That's right. So it shouldn't net all out.
It shouldn't at all.
I pulled sure that's stuff.
Yeah, Mr.
Well, are we, I just don't know where we are total.
So, I don't think it's gonna.
It's not gonna throw your budget into.
Okay.
All right, so with this amendment that he still need to make, that we have one left to do, and that is, move to publish the budget. I would move that we publish this budget with that, with this change over HR.
Second.
All right, any discussion?
Question,
Go for it.
by what date do you have to have this published?
It has to be 10 days before the county commission meeting and no more than 5 days after we send it to the county commission to look at. It has to be in those two stipulations. And the next publication is Thursday.
We have to have it to a newspaper next Tuesday morning to get it in the paper on Thursday next.
Which will meet that deadline easy for the day.
And what would happen if suddenly there was a material change that we had to
If you have the intent to approve the budget, then there's a material change and we can change it. As long as that's your intent right now, you've got a budget that you can approve, then you're fine. You can make changes.
Okay.
And there will be a hearing at the county commission too on the budget for citizens or departments.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure it's clear, those cuts, the departments you made cuts to tonight, they would have to come to the floor, the commission meeting, to have that restored at this point.
Okay.
Could they do it next, we meet next Monday?
Yeah, anything small can be brought next Monday. That's when I'll bring by contract, anything else will be seen. You can make small changes, not recommended to make large ones, but if necessary. We've done it.
All right. All in favor of publishing the budget?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. One more motion.
Adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.